Welcome back to season 2 of Nexus Connects Us. I'm excited to be back again as a season to continue the conversations we're having with the experts at Nexus Dental Systems, their partners, their dentists, and patients like me. In the last episode, we talked about my device and I had just got it. Wow, what a difference. I had a device previously from another organization, another company that wasn't really tailored to me. And I got to tell you, I thought it was working, and I'm sure it was doing some good. It's nothing like the device that I got from Nexus. I've been so impressed by this device, how simple it is, how easy it is. I even took it to my dentist and showed him, and he was like, this is pretty cool. It's a really amazing technology and product, and I'm really now proud to be a customer of Nexus Dental. Today, we brought Lisa Moeller back. Lisa helped us kick off season 1, and she had a brief appearance on the show. About 10 minutes, we talked about some things and her journey with sleep apnea and her journey with Nexus. She's our CMO here, and we brought her back for a full episode this time because we really wanted to talk about something important and kick this season off with something I think that really hits close to home, particularly if you're a woman. Lisa had a journey with getting diagnosed with sleep apnea that is probably not uncommon. Should be. Shouldn't happen. But Lisa's journey was one of struggle. And it was because doctors couldn't believe that she had sleep apnea. They thought it had to be something else. She didn't fit the textbooks. She didn't look like the truck driver on the brochure. She didn't look like the lineman on television that talking about their struggles with sleep apnea. Lisa didn't fit the mold, and because of that, she really had to fight in order to get her doctors to pay attention for her. And in the end, it wasn't even the doctor she was working with that diagnosed her, but a doctor that she visited for something completely unrelated. So I'm excited to bring this episode to you. I'm a little disappointed in the audio quality. Sometimes when you record like this, you get one of those days where the interwebs just doesn't want to help. We had one of those, and we had some audio issues with this episode that I'm really bummed about. But what we captured in the conversation with Lisa was so important that we decided to just go ahead and with it and just publish it for you because I think it's that important. So my apologies for some of the audio challenges with this episode and where I sound a little bit tinny and not my usual radio voice. All right, here we go. Nexus connects us to women and sleep apnea. Well, let's talk dental, let's talk women, let's talk all sorts of fun stuff. Welcome back once again, Lisa Moeller. Lisa, it's good to have you back. This is season 2. We have made it into season 2.
Yay, I made it into season 2 in the summertime. Best time of year for us here in Arizona.
I'm getting too old for this shit. We're at 30 some days of 110 degree plus. I just can't do it anymore.
With hardly any monsoon rain. I mean, we've had one so far. It's been brutal. It's been a brutal summer.
In other news, here we are in season 2 of Nexus Connects Us. Today, Nexus is connecting us to Lisa Moeller to talk about women in healthcare. And I think this is such a really important topic. Lisa, we talked about this briefly in the first season, and we probably only talked about it for 5 minutes that made it into the show. Mm-hmm. But I think it's so important, particularly for you to tell your story, because let's be honest, even though we talked a lot in this show about sleep apnea not just affecting big truck driver looking guys, we did happen to interview a bunch of big truck driver looking guys that talked about their problems.
We did. And some not so much. And some not so much.
We did.
Yeah.
But I mean, the stereotypical idea of who suffers with sleep apnea is not children and women. But in your journey in particular, you really were up close and personal with this thing. And candidly, I can go to my doctor and say, I think I have sleep apnea. And she's going to go, yeah, sure. Let me get you a sleep test. Yeah. If my wife does that, I don't know if she's going to get the same response.
Totally different story. Totally different story. Yeah. Yeah. women get treated differently than men. I'm sorry. There's going to be some commentary on this, I'm sure, but it's the truth. It took me forever to get diagnosed with sleep apnea. I was suffering. I mean, I was truly suffering for years, probably longer than I needed to. Years.
And was it that you were just dismissed, or
it was my age. Work? I mean, I was in my mid 40s at the time. It was my age. It was my hormones. I was entering perimenopause. It was my lifestyle, my surroundings, I was unhappy, whatever. I mean, all the things they could think up to come up with. I wasn't sleeping. I remember going to yoga, and I would almost fall asleep in yoga. I was so tired. I was tired. I mean, that's when you're supposed to relax, but full on fall asleep. I mean, it was literal, I was Z'ing out. And sleep during the day. I mean, I would be taking naps, which is highly unlike me. It was a horrible time, and I just didn't feel good. I had headaches. I couldn't concentrate. And I was going to all these doctors and nobody was doing anything. And especially I was going to my dentist every 3 months because I'm really crazy weird about my teeth since I'm in the industry. Yeah. And, I had bruxism, and I had, there were a lot of symptoms presenting themselves at the dentist that didn't get picked up on and diagnosed. It was, it was a thing. And finally, of all people that diagnosed me was a chiropractor. I went because my back was killing me. Of course, my whole body was hurting because I wasn't getting any sleep. And, all that creates inflammation and, the whole trickle down effect. So I went to the chiropractor, and he said, he gave me an Epworth test, and he said, he came in the room. He said, I'm not even going to crack you. You have sleep apnea. Go get a test. And I'm like, I was a little offended. Offended. I'm like, what do you mean? You're not going to treat me? He goes, no, I'm not going to treat you today. You have sleep apnea. It's going to kill you. Go get it fixed. I can tell just by looking at you, your eyes are half closed. Yeah. And I had bags under my eyes. It was not a good look, and I'm in the media, and I have to maintain a certain image. And it was rough during that time. So I went, got a sleep test. Lo and behold, of course, I had, pretty high AHI. That's average hypopnea index. And that's how many times an hour you're waking up. And mine was 36. And I was
37. So yeah, we're
it's high. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's very high. You think 36 times an hour you're waking up? That's not normal.
No, you're not getting sound sleep. That's the equivalent of someone that you're sleeping with, poking you, 36 times. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Who's going to be good the next day after that? Yeah. And so it was, it really affected my brain. It affected my heart. It affected, I had an atrial fib because of it. I had to have an ablation for my atrial fib because it got really bad. And that was all sleep apnea related. And I just wish at that time that I would have been more of an advocate for myself and known what I know now. And I guess we have to, it's, Maya Angelou says we have to forgive ourselves for not knowing what we didn't know at the time, right? I didn't know. I didn't know better. When we know better, we do better. And I just had no idea that, it was affecting my organs and was affecting everything in my body. And I was it was a bad time, Derek. It was not a good time.
Yeah. I totally get it. Because if you don't sleep well, you don't feel well. So let's talk about why do you think it is? It's really easy to say, well, is it the doctors don't know? Is it that you're not textbook? Their understanding of sleep apnea is the big truck driver looking guy, the football player. Are they just trying to, most people are as human beings, we're pretty good at pattern recognition. And I have to think as a doctor, you're looking for patterns. And in some senses, you fall outside of that pattern, right? You don't look the part. Do Do you think
A
that was
lot
the
of women
problem, or was
don't
it
look.
deeper?
A lot of women don't. I think
Yeah.
they, not just with sleep apnea, but I've got a beef with doctors in general. I got a beef with ENTs right now too. We could get into a lot of it. I mean, I had an ENT recently tell me that I clearly had a raging sphenoid sinus infection. And he stuck the camera up there and told me that I had migraines. Go to the front office, buy his book, read it, and come back in a month to see him. You know, I left there and that's not the first time. I mean, I think that some doctors are just dismissive with women because we have, you know, we have more issues, you know, we have a lot of internal issues going on. We've got, I mean, not that men don't, but ours get a little bit more complicated, you know, with our hormones and all of that.
Yeah.
And I think when you're one that goes to see doctors and you know you don't feel well, you're trying to find out what's wrong with you. You're going, you know, it's like, it looks like doctor shopping and doctor hopping. That's not what it is in most cases. You're legitimately just trying to figure out what is wrong. What's wrong with me? Why do I feel like crap? Why am I so tired? Why do I, you know, why this, why that? I mean, as we get older, we all know stuff can pop up overnight.
Yeah, I can. Listen, one of my best friends lives down the street from me. Has had long COVID and finally went in the other day and was like, I don't know, something just doesn't seem right. And they were like, yeah, you got leukemia. Like, what the heck? You know,
what?
It's like random, right? He's been in the hospital now for like 6 weeks. I mean, you just, you know, health, you got to take care of your health. And, you know, he probably should have been a little bit more of an advocate. He went to more urgent care. He didn't go see a specialist. And I think that's really what you're saying is you do have to be an advocate for yourself in this process. Because let's be honest, I mean, the healthcare workers, the doctors, everybody is stressed to their maximums. They're not paying as much attention as they probably should. And that is because there's not enough people in the industry. You know, the insurance companies are sort of forcing things down to them. And we recently worked with a surgery center with my other company. And they were telling us after a diagnosis, there's a certain number of minutes they can get paid for from insurance. That's it. If they want to have like I'm telling you, life-changing, life-altering diagnosis, and I have to sit there legally, you know, if I want to get paid, I have to sit there and go, okay, I have 9 minutes left to talk to this person. If I go 1 second over that, I'm not going to get reimbursed. It's going to jack up my practice. It's going to jack up our, like, okay,
that's
we
ridiculous.
got to be a little more personal. You've got to, yeah, it is. And I think to your point, you really do have to, you've got to be your own advocate, and you have to recognize that, you know, everybody perceives the world through their own eyes. Very few people actually have perception and they can see it through your perspective. So you got to force that perspective. You got to be able to say, no, I don't think you understand what's going on. This is not like me. This is out of the ordinary. I can feel pressure here. I can feel something's wrong. You need to tell me, you know, run the test.
Yeah. You know your body, and not just women, men too, but specifically women. Here's another situation is that I was paying a concierge doc for 15 years. Okay. A concierge doc, a lot of money every month. He was on call. Like you text him if something goes wrong, they got to respond within 20 minutes, no matter what time of day or night it is. Loved him. I mean, I hug and kiss him every time I see him at the office. I mean, he was my guy. He was my quarterback. I loved him. After COVID, you know, he got really burned out. A lot of these doctors after COVID just got really burned and fried, you know, seeing people and weird symptoms and, you know, all the stuff that went with it and all the protocols. And literally the last time I saw him, I was coming up with the same complaints as what I was having, you know, after COVID. And I was, you know, a lot of different stuff going on. And he kept telling me, go to church more, work less, and, you know, just try and like de-stress myself, because all of these symptoms basically he was telling me were psychosomatic, and that they were, you know, they would all go away if I just like worked less and prayed more. I told my
I mean, maybe not bad advice, but probably not relevant in this situation. Let's just be honest.
No, because I know my body, and I'm not a freaking hypochondriac. I know my body. Okay. I have autoimmune issues from way back. So I come home and tell my husband this. He's like, would you please go to my doctor? Would you, he loves his doctor. Would you please go to my doctor? I'm like, okay, I will. Went to his doctor, one visit, told him all my symptoms, what was happening. He goes, I know exactly what you have. And he told me it was another autoimmune condition. And lo and behold, he sent me to a specialist.
Yeah.
I have it. And I'm sitting here like literally, I suffered for probably 2 years with these symptoms before my doctor. I was begging for MRIs and for, these tests. And it was like, it was kind of like, my doctor was acting like the money was coming out of his pocket for the MRI. Like, I mean, no, he wasn't going to do it. Like, we need some more data here. It's something is going on not right in my body. And I knew it. Go to my husband's doctor, first visit. He called it spot on.
Wow.
And he's my guy. I dumped my concierge doc. I dumped them and he's my guy now.
I mean, I think it's so important, in relation to what we're talking about here with this podcast too, is it's like, you've got to be your own advocate. But I know there's a lot of dentists that listen to this podcast. Don't ask just just the guy that looks like me. Don't ask the former football player. Don't just ask the person who obviously needs to lose, 40, 50 pounds. You got to ask everybody, because you just don't know what is going down and what people are struggling with. And the best thing to do is just ask a couple simple questions. This is not hard to diagnose, or at least diagnose for a sleep test. I mean, it just isn't hard at all to do. Just about asking the right questions, ask them uniformly, ask them to everyone. I do understand that you're a medical professional and you're used to triage and you're used to sort of, but there's a better chance that this person is the right candidate. Yeah, but you don't know. You really don't. And I think, as some of our docs have said in these episodes, some of the things are just really about how our lifestyles, our eating habits, the food we eat, so many things today are different than they were even 20 years ago. The medical profession hasn't caught up yet to understand how many kids are suffering with things like sleep apnea, how many women are suffering with it. We're seeing record high diagnoses, but nobody's really going back and saying, well, maybe we've missed something. I mean, that's the reason, is because we've been missing something for a really long time.
Yeah.
So it's just so critical, I think.
They're still in the Flintstone age, I'm telling you, of diagnosing it across the board. I mean, sleep apnea is within the top 5 killers of people in general, and that and most people are walking around with a sleep-related breathing disorder they have no clue about. And my doctor is dismissing me, back 12 years ago. I mean, literally, I don't know if I told this story on the last pod, but I literally fell out of bed one morning at 2:00 in the morning with every symptom of a heart attack. And my arm was numb. I was sweating. My arm was numb. I had pains in my chest. I drove myself to the ER, and they told me that I had an anxiety attack, because there was no sign of that I had a heart attack. God. But it was definitely not an anxiety attack, because I was not breathing. I had an apneic. I had a central apneic event. And thank God my brain woke me up in the nick of time. But because I literally fell on my knees out of bed. That had never happened before. So, that's when I was like, whoa, like, that's when your intuition kicks in and you're like, something's really wrong. Something's really wrong. This was not an anxiety attack. I mean, I know I'm a high strung person, but that would have been one hell of an anxiety attack. And I knew you have to know yourself, know your body. And as women, we know those feelings. We know if we have a twinge here, or a twinge there, or a pain, something's not right if it's persistent. Right. Yeah. So we have to listen to ourselves more and speak up, because sometimes, people with doctors are afraid sometimes to speak up, because they think doctors are like, they're like up on this pedestal, and they're like, they can't be talked to in a certain manner. And you talk to them like regular people. You're
Yeah.
like, dude, I'm like to my doctor, dude, like this is bothering me. This is really persistent. This is happening. I mean, you've got to speak up for yourself and don't be afraid. Your time is just as valuable as their time. And normally they leave us waiting for 45 minutes before they even walk in the room.
Yeah.
So I'm like, are you paying me for that, doc? Because my time is valuable too.
So let's give some tips. I mean, how do you better advocate for yourself? I mean, obviously you have to know your body, I think, first, right? You have to know when
Write things down. Write things down. I mean, write your symptoms down, write your questions down. Go in prepared. If they've only got, 20, 30 minutes with you, be locked and loaded, be prepared. Have your questions written down. Because I forget things, I'll go off on tangents and get to cover. Oh my God, I wanted to ask about that supplement or that vitamin or that, whatever it is. So go in prepared. Know your body, go to your regular checkups once a year so that you're not going to have a test and have some catastrophic thing pop up. I'm always an advocate of keeping up with the physicals every year.
I am too.
It's very important, especially for us busy, AAA
I go
type
once a month.
people.
I literally go once a month. I've done it now because I'm heavy. So I'm like, I know I don't have the best lifestyle. I'm not working out nearly enough. I have way too much stress. I go every single month and get blood work and get weighed and do the whole thing. And, because I recognize that, your health is important. I mean, you got to take care of it. It's like your teeth too. I mean, I'm like you, I go to the dentist every 2 to 3 months. I'm like, I got to go at least get a cleaning and get things checked out. But it is important. I mean, prepare when you're walking in, and I think know your body's the next. And then what are other tips? I mean, you're more vocal than probably most people would be because you've suffered with this, right? So you now know how hard you have to push. It's probably harder than most people are comfortable with.
Just get with the right doctor, and you got to just keep looking until you find the right one. And that also goes for dentists and sleep doctors. Go till you find the right one, till you find somebody educated. I mean, me being in the business of sleep, it's hard for me to find doctors that are more educated than me on it because I've done it for so long, right? But I can tell them a few things. I educate them on a few things, actually, and I'll whip out my magazine and, let them know
That's
a
awesome.
thing or two.
Yeah, I think actually there's a really good lesson here. I think obviously preparation, writing things down. I've started doing that too, and I don't even do it in my own handwriting now. I print it out and I hand it to her, and I say like, "Here's the 4 things I want to talk about," because then she's got to go through 4 things. Like she makes her little notes, and she'll write down something on there and try this and try this. Knowing your body and keeping track of that, like logging that a little bit. Hey, look, 4 nights a week, I'm not getting good sleep. Every time I drink alcohol, I tend to sleep worse. Why is that? Like ask those questions.
Always.
Find the right doc. And
try not to Dr. Google too much. Like a lot of women, especially, we like to look up all our symptoms on Google, and then we're dying, and then we've got, this incurable illness, and then it's like, you're freaking out. So try not to do that as much as we can, although everybody does do it.
Sure.
If you feel like you have something, write down the symptoms, keep track of the symptoms, go talk to your doctor who you can count on and actually talk to. They should be your quarterback, your team, the member of your team, your healthcare team that, that looks out for you.
On your side. Yeah.
And communication is key with those guys. And again, don't be afraid to speak up for yourself. I think being your own advocate is the biggest point.
Yeah. And I think to that, and sometimes I think it's important to help people think through their feelings with this. And what I would say is understand it's going to be uncomfortable, right? If you've been in this model for 20, 30 years where you just listen to what your doctor says, pushing back is going to feel uncomfortable. That's good. Right. That's how you're doing it right. Sometimes it's good to know that, you're sitting there going, this is going to be uncomfortable. That means that you're actually doing what you should be doing, and you're advocating for yourself, and you're pushing back and saying, you know what, I don't know if that's technically right. And just giving them that feedback. And I think good doctors appreciate that. And they say, okay, well then tell me more, right? I'm trying to diagnose here quickly. give me more information about that. How often does this happen? How does that make you feel?
For sure.
What are the after effects? All of those things are really important. I mean, anybody that's ever watched House, right? You know how this works. It's like all the first 4 or 5 doctors, and then they just keep asking questions. In the Japanese culture, in Japanese management, they call it the 5 whys. And it's like, anytime anybody tells you anything, you say, well, that's really interesting. Why do you think that is? Well, that's fascinating. Well, why do you think that is? Interesting. Why is that? And you just keep asking those questions. We're not trained in Western society to do that. We're not trained to go to the root cause and determine what it is. We tend to try to prescribe something that handles the symptoms without finding the problem. We have to be the ones. If they're not asking why, we have to be the ones that say, I need to give you a little bit more information here. Are you sure you're ready to diagnose me with this? Let's do this. Let's see, what are the tests that could happen? All the time, that is beneficial because it gives your doctor more information and it empowers your doctor to help you again.
It does. And do we want to be more afraid of not speaking up for ourselves, or do we want to be more afraid when the diagnosis comes that we don't want to hear? Because you're going to be afraid either way. I mean, I'd rather speak up for myself and say, hey, we got to run these tests. We got to figure out what's going on. I would rather push for that than be a little mouse and not speak up. And all of a sudden the day comes where there's something catastrophic.
Yeah, totally. Because it's a matter of life and death, right? Speaking up for yourself when it comes to this is a matter of life and death. And I think drawing that back, obviously Nexus is an important, part of both of us. Doing that with your dentist too, and explaining to them and talking to them about sleep is really important. I mean, you have usually there's a little bit more time to talk to your dentist. You have to learn how to talk like this, right? While they have their fingers in your mouth, but they will eventually stop and say, what was that again? And then you can say, I've been sleeping really well. Is there anything you're seeing in there? You're looking down into the hole of my soul here where all of this happens. That's where it's at. They are dentists are truly the front line in this thing.
They are the front line. I mean, I was grinding. My bruxism was crazy. I was grinding, and anytime you're grinding your teeth, and I'm waking up when that's happening. It's causing a disturbance in my sleep. It's causing, I'm sorry, as women, it's okay. It's okay to have sleep apnea as a woman. I mean, I can't tell you how many friends I talk to, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I was diagnosed, but I'm not getting treated for it." I'm like, why? Because I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I'll get around to it. I don't want to wear that thing. And I don't want to, I'm like, you guys, there's so many other alternatives. I mean, it doesn't have to be the CPAP. It doesn't have to.
Right.
There's so many amazing oral appliances out there that fix the problem and that are really saving and changing people's lives. I mean, once I got treated for sleep apnea, after all those years I was suffering, it was like a game changer, game on.
Yeah,
it was incredible. I was like, whoa, this is what it's like to be awake at 3:30 in the afternoon. I mean,
totally.
This is like,
that's pretty nice.
Is what it's like to remember driving home.
Yeah.
I was on autopilot, crazy.
I got to tell you, when, towards the end of season 1, I got my device. And Stan and a couple others reached out to me and they're like, what do you think? And I said, I definitely feel like I have more energy, but, not to give TMI, but here I am, a 50-year-old guy. I realized I don't wake up nearly as much in the middle of the night anymore. I used to get up 3-4 times a night, to use the bathroom. And now I'm like, I wake up maybe once a night. There was actually a night a couple weeks ago, I fell asleep at like 10 o'clock and I woke up at 6 and I was like, why are all the lights on? I'm like, oh my God, did I just sleep through the night? Like, I haven't done that in 15 years.
Nice.
So, I mean, there's a real benefit to it, right? There's a real benefit to being an advocate for self. And, sometimes I think you have to understand that doctors are busy. Sometimes they just don't know. And, doctors should always be on the pursuit for knowledge and wisdom. Maybe they're not as much anymore, but the reason that they're in that position is because at one point they loved that. They loved getting to the root of it. So, enable them to do that again. And even if they don't have the answers, doctors don't want to always say they don't have the answers. Be like, can you get back? Can you do a little bit of research on this and get back to me? Because it doesn't seem right.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is they've lost, again, going back to like post-COVID, they went through hell and back in COVID. I understand that those doctors did. I get that. And their office staff, their staff, and their, everybody went through hell with that. And I think they have a bit of PTSD from that. Who wouldn't? But guys, like, they need to shake themselves out of it. I'm sorry. It's like, if you're with a doctor who is offended if you bring them an article or a piece of literature or a magazine or whatever it is, and they get offended and, like you said, don't want to be on the continuing learning track, skid them quickly. Bye-bye.
Yeah. I think there's so much good that comes out of this episode. And listen, we're going to definitely title this about women too, because I think it is really true. You do have to advocate. You do have to understand that, sometimes particularly, listen, it's difficult. I'm not a doctor, but I can't imagine it's easy for somebody who's of the opposite sex to truly know what something feels like when they've never felt that, right? They've never had to deal with those, like you said, the hormonal imbalances. They've never had to deal with some of those things that happen naturally throughout life. So it's difficult for them to identify it. And it's really important for you to be your own advocate. And like we said, make sure you prepare, know your body, keep track of that stuff. Find a doctor that works for you and be willing to have those uncomfortable conversations. If you're not having uncomfortable conversations with your doctor, you probably aren't getting the full picture. You probably need to push a little harder on that.
That's correct. Another thing, you've got to try and go to the best of the best. Try and, research those doctors, get to the best, get to someone you're comfortable with, get to someone who's really going to listen. When they're not listening, obviously.
Totally.
Yeah,
that's a really good point. Well, Lisa, this was really great. And if you want to find out more about Nexus, you can check out the website, learn more about it. Make sure you just go and ask your dentist if it comes to sleep. I think that's the most important thing. Your doctor and your dentist, you really should be working hand in hand with this on diagnosing sleep apnea, and get a sleep test. I think it's interesting when you see the results and you go, oh, that was the problem. It's a little awakening.
It's a game changer. And I literally started DSP magazine. We're going into next year in 24 is our 10th year with DSP.
Wow.
And literally I started DSP because I have sleep apnea. And there it is. There she is.
I even have my DSP copy here laying on my desk.
There's our favorite
for non-dental professionals. Right?
It's really, and not only do we have dental articles in there, but also from a medical perspective, cardiologists and Dr. Lee Sirkin is our medical editor, and he brings that to the table with all of the other things that go with sleep apnea, like heart issues and lung issues and all of that stuff. So I sound like I'm selling, but it is a pretty cool publication.
Absolutely.
That's just me wanting to fill, a niche in the marketplace that I knew needed to be filled at the time, 10 years ago when there wasn't any.
I love it. Well, listen, thank you, Lisa, for being here. And thank you all for joining us on this edition of Nexus Connects Us. Until next time, I guess, get a sleep test. In the human race.